make it there and can make it back.
Salutations and shit, folks. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite travel podcast, Travel and Shit, where I, your host, D. Carrie, have an experiential conversation about the nuanced ways that travel intersects with regular life. Welcome back to another celebratory episode. October is the birthday month of Travel and Shit, so I actually quietly celebrated with my partner this weekend. I realized I do a really shit job of marketing, advertising. Not my strong suit yet. Promise I am working on getting better. But we actually just went to brunch. We were off for Indigenous Peoples Day because fuck Columbus. Was off work and we did brunch in Astoria. It was cute. Enjoyed. 10 out of 10 recommend. And it was nice to just be outside on a really nice day. And it's kind of part of an extended version of just enjoying my city. I am low-key grounding myself with this travel. I don't want to say with this travel climate because we'll get into it, but France got some shit going on. I don't want to be on anybody's plane. I'm terrified of bed bugs. And yeah, not looking to do any particular points of travel. I mean, there's places I would like to go, but I can't say that the perceived risk to me is worth it. But before we dive into more on that, back to the celebratory part of the podcast. This month, I've been having a really good time of having my listeners join me as guests on the show because I feel like as much talking as I do, I always imagine who I'm talking to when I am having these conversations on my own because it's one thing when I have a guest, right? I have somebody to fucking talk to. But when I'm doing the solo episodes, I just imagine that my avatar is just myself. So it brings my heart such a warm rush of joy to actually have a face, a beating heart. And this beautiful face is here with me again. Brittaney, welcome back. I can say welcome back because you are actually one of I think you were the first listener, other than like my mama, that was a guest. You and Tiffany were guests for the revisioning, if you will. I remember we did a time travel episode where we were kind of discussing like what eras of time would we as the blacks really want to go to? Would we want to go to the future? Would we want to go to the past? Like what would our fantasy travel look like? And I had such a fun time, and I'm so glad that you were interested in talking with me again. So, Brittaney, welcome back. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me. It was a really fun conversation. I'm Brittaney. I'm not very interested. No, I'm Brittaney. I also love to travel, and I'm black as hell.
Yeah. And very interesting.
I try. I am I'm going to school to be an art and play therapist for kids with autism.
Oh, that is so cool.
Have survived abuse. Yeah,
oh wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah, God bless.
Man, I have a long way to go, but I've always loved working with kids. I'm a part-time babysitter by choice. And it's just a really good time. So I'm just hanging out with kiddos a lot, but also working office job because grown up.
Right.
Grown up stuff,
If I can, a little prayer for your spirit, because I know that kids in general is a rough demographic, but especially for kids that need so much extra help. That is a lot. It is taxing, not just on them, but for the people that love them. So thank you for that work, and a continued prayer for your own personal peace in dealing with that, because I know what it's like to work in spaces where you're just constantly bombarded with bad news. It can be a lot. So thank you for that work, and continued warm hugs for you for that one.
No, thank you so much. I'm wondering, at the end of it, because I have to get my master's and everything, still working on my bachelor's, and I'm wondering, like, can I rough it out? Can I stick it out? But I don't know. I'm a religious person, and I think it's my calling. So we'll
Hmm.
see at the end, man. We'll see at the end of the journey.
I think through the journey, you'll also be able to find, I don't want to say tools, but like hopefully resources, but also just practices that best suit you as you grow through that process. Because it's one thing, it's kind of like, because I used to teach dance class,
Oh
and
wow.
you've got your baby class, you've got your intermediate class, and then you've
Mhm.
got like your teen class. That intermediate class was my sweet spot. I love the babies, but the babies are just extra clingy. So they just want to hug you. They want to tell you about
Yeah.
their life outside of dance school. They are picking their nose. They are chewing their toes. They are
Love
crying.
that.
They're doing all the things at one time. And there's like 12 of them at once. And it's fucking chaos. But then you
It's so
have the
much.
teenagers who are feeling all of those different emotions and directing them at each other, at you, at themselves. And they are
Oof.
just teenagers. Love y'all, but woo. And
They're
so,
scary, man. These
hello.
kids, these teenagers are a different breed. Like I could
And
never.
yeah, wasn't my favorite group. Um, love them, loved them down, but the tweens were my absolute favorites. The
That's good.
tweens were my absolute favorites. Right in, I'd say like 6 to 12. And that, yeah, like 6 to 12, not like the preteens because the hormones are there and, that takes a little bit more patience. And
Yeah.
that's what I meant by God bless you and all of the people that not only work with kids, but then work with the kids who sometimes need the extra love and the extra patience because baby, they will try you. Have you ever traveled with kids?
Oh my gosh. No.
Mm.
Kind of. No. Well, I was an au pair in Italy for 3 months.
Ooh,
When
that
I
counts.
when I
Girl, an
was
experience.
23, 24, and it was rough. It was rough. So I didn't travel with them, but I traveled to them? Question
Okay,
mark? If that makes sense.
so they were a French family and you went there
They
to
were Italian.
even more interesting. So they were
Yeah,
just
it
on
was crazy.
holiday or something and you just met them out there to nanny for them?
No, so it's a wild story if you're down for that.
Go for it.
So
I mean,
yeah,
we don't got
yeah,
shit. This is a free
yeah.
ball conversation, bro. This is just talking to people that I feel like talk back to me when I'm talking every fucking week. I'm here for it. Pull up.
Yes, I love this. Okay, so it was an experience. So this girl who I was like kind of friends with, mostly like an acquaintance or whatever, she went to Ireland and she did that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I think I could do that. Let me see. And so I joined this website called aupairworld.com. And basically, you make a profile. You say, like, oh, I'm down to, I don't know, watch the kids but not clean or
Hmm.
everything like that. And they give you like a stipend. And just like different, some people offer their car, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Some people offer a separate room. I was supposed to go with this family, but then they decided to go with another person. And they're like, oh, my brother needs a person. And I video chatted them. They seemed like super dope. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I paid my way there. They paid my way home.
Okay.
Um,
And they
and I
had your
was,
return ticket booked before you went out there? How did that
yeah.
work? Nice.
So
Comfort. Okay.
we decided like how long I'm gonna be there, and then kind of went that way.
Okay.
Um, and then my main thing was like, who am I outside of Tristan, my husband, then
Hmm.
boyfriend? Who am I outside of Tristan, my family? Like, I'm super reliant on them, but also super clingy, the
Hmm.
fix it person.
Hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm a bounce. Like, I'm gonna see
Yeah.
who I am outside of them. And it was wild. It was wild. I was homesick. I lost a ton of weight because they don't snack. Like, that's something I didn't realize that I do.
So
They
that
don't
family in
snack.
particular, or just the
I
spirit
don't know.
of, you felt
I'm
like it
not
was more
sure.
of a European culture thing?
I think it might have been the culture. They eat like a ton of veggies, a ton of everything. The grandma of the mom, or the grandma of the kids on the mom's
Mm-hmm.
side, she had her own garden and
Oh,
would bring like fresh fruit and veggie. It was wild. It was so cool. So cool. Very difficult because the communication language barrier.
really? They didn't speak
Yeah,
English?
they did, but they often like defaulted to Italian.
Okay.
So that was really, really hard. And I was nervous at first because I was like, I'm black, bro. Like, I don't know how this is gonna work. I don't know, if they're prejudiced, nothing like that. But no, the rugby coach of the little kid was black, and we went out clubbing and dancing. It was really cool. It was really good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. So did you stay with them, or did you just like stay nearby?
So I stayed with them. They didn't have a separate room for me, and they told me that ahead of time. So
Okay.
I stayed on like a cot with the kids in the bunk bed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they had a bunk bed. I had a cot, and
Okay.
it wasn't terrible. It was pretty good.
So they were on holiday or vacation, and
No,
they just lived
kind
there?
of. Yeah, kind of. I think they did like summer school or something. But
Okay.
they still had like a schedule of like, oh, we're gonna play rugby, we're gonna do like certain activities, and we need you to be there with them, and we specifically want you to just speak English around them.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up like learning a good amount. And it was wild. Like, I
How long
learned a
were you
lot.
there?
3 months.
That's a shit ton of time. That's an entire summer.
Man, so I'm not going to jump ahead. I know what our main topic is, so I'll get to that, but it I was so homesick. I was like every day like I want to go home, and I'm like, shit, dude, I'm not
Yeah.
taking this in, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
enjoying, but a huge part of me um just figured it out, and I was like, I can do this. Like, I
Mm.
could totally, I'm already here. The
Yeah.
hell? Like, I went to the top of the largest, like, what is it? Tower in their little city, in
Mm-hmm.
their plaza, and that was like, I don't even know, like 180 feet, something too high, like just too high, too high. I was like, oh my god, these stairs are wild. And the other people were like, doo-doo-doo. I'm like, no, no, like,
Panic,
I'm about to
chaos.
die. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I think The Walking Dead, when they like go up the stairs and it's just like a big
Oh,
old
girl, I
hole.
don't do
No,
zombies. Never seen it.
I feel you. I feel you.
That is the
Basically,
one
a huge
thing.
hole.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
no, no, no,
I would
no.
never survive a zombie apocalypse.
Oh,
Absolutely not.
same. Absolutely not.
That I know many things about me to be true. That is undeniably one of them. Would now wait? I will categorize it as if it were just me. If I were
Mm,
alone, absolutely not going to make it. If I had
yeah.
somebody else I felt like I had to protect or save, that
Oh.
that I can categorize. I am a nurturer, and I know that about me to be true without question. If I feel like I need to protect you, or if you are someone that I just for some reason feel protective over, I
Mhm.
got you. You're good. Me, on the other hand, you ain't gonna see me, baby. Say bye. Like, that's
You're
it.
like, it's
It's a
not
done.
worth it. I'm done.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
that's
I don't know
awesome.
what we were watching, but it was something where they had to leave because every once in a while, and hi mom, we agreed to do like a it's spooky season. And I love scary
Yeah.
movies. I'm just a fucking bitch. I am such a punk. I my partner lives with me. He is strong and he does not fucking play. So I know he don't play about me or this dog.
Yeah.
So it's like we're good in this household. But I am still terrified to watch it because it's all in my head. And I feel like that's a lot of why sometimes I don't want to say tense up, but why a lot of experiences and travels tend to worry us because we're caught in our head as to what could possibly happen. And we're just
Exactly.
writing the story as to what it could be as opposed to the information that's right in front of us. I understand all these movies to be fake. I understand
Yeah.
all of these to be actors. I understand FX makeup. I understand scripting. I'm a very logical and intelligent woman. However,
Yeah.
that logic and intelligence will weave some stories. And as long as there is a
Homie.
story in my mind, I'm going to be terrified. And I
Yes.
truly believe out of all the monsters that zombies could absolutely be real. Zombies, witches, like if I had to absolutely say that I could, oh, that's a really interesting one. Like, where would you, not necessarily where, right? Because I
Mhm.
can't even say that I would be that like universally knowledgeable about destinations and locations to answer this, but like what kind of monsters do you think you could encounter in your travels, right? Like I remember I had I don't know if you caught this episode. There was an episode where about cryptids, if you will, where I had Ken, and hi Ken, such a sweetheart. And she was talking about how we were basically talking about how different regions have their own monsters, have their own lore. And I know you're a fan of monsters. So
Yeah.
what monsters would you possibly be hyped to see in your travels and maybe
Mm.
like fucking terrified to see? Me, off the zombies, not fucking with the shits. Witches, I believe in. Witches are real. So, and I mean, I'm not even talking like movie witches and the bullshit. Like witches are real. Like
Like
witchcraft
Wiccan
exists.
or actual?
I think actual magic exists.
Really?
Fucking, you can't tell me otherwise. Degrees and all. Magic is real. There's no way that magic is not real.
Okay.
Doesn't maybe exist in the ways that it is generally perceived, but I absolutely believe in magic. Like, I just have to. It's the heart in me just has to. And so I really think that of all of the monsters that I can think of, outside of like supernatural monsters, right? Like,
Yeah. Paranormal stuff like
yes,
that.
because ghosts, also real.
I don't fuck with that.
Yeah, another thing that I don't like, the things that I absolutely to be true, like the things I believe to be true are the things and the energies that I don't play about when I'm traveling. Like, I'm not, I'm very respectful of resting places, certain like memorials and stuff
Mm.
like that, because I do believe that, energies do exist in spaces like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Me too.
so when I go to even churches per se, I don't know if it was, what was the movie with Tom Hanks, The Da Vinci Code, where a
Okay.
lot of the like the churches, I don't know if it was the Da Vinci Code or Angels and Demons, but one of them Dan Brown book movies, where they had not just the catacombs, but like, what do you call it? Goddamn, I
You
have
got
words.
this.
Um, where they they bury the bodies. Like there's a specific word
Yeah,
for
yeah,
it,
yeah.
but
I think
when they
it's the
have
catacombs. You go down and do like the
the,
tours
the catacombs
sometimes,
is
and
like a thing of its own, but like certain churches have like not just relics, but internments of like there's sacred places, and just because you can't see it or just because you're not aware of something's existence does not negate the existence of a
interesting.
thing. And so my
Okay.
belief is that a lot of holy places tend to have other parts, unknown, if you will, to them that are necessarily outside of the public reach, but still exist in some sense. So I take holy spaces seriously. People come there and release a lot of energy and
Yeah.
share a lot of energy wherever two or more are gathered, I am there. So I don't think that that's
Exactly.
necessarily just in Christianity. So
Hmm.
I think that that would exist across all belief. I'm welcome to believe that anybody could make that happen in whatever they believe in. So I don't play about those spaces. Like, I tend to be very respectful in how I carry myself and interact with people in those spaces because of
Hmm.
that. So, like, what do you think that your perception on monsters has to do with maybe how you interact or how you move in your travels?
I think like piggybacking off of what you said, I think that's really an amazing way to think, you know, when you are in those holy spaces. Because for me, I'm a Christian and I'm like, you know, I'll pray in there and I'm like, wow, this is gorgeous, this is beautiful. But I don't think of like the energy, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
That people bring, and it could be negative. And they could, you know, get positive, like that definitely exists. So I'm gonna start thinking about that. In terms of monsters, ooh, like what monster can I handle? Do-
Okay, start there.
oh, I'm also a little bitch, bro. Like I love it. I love it so much, but oh god. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay, what I can't handle is like possessed little kids.
Ooh,
Mm-mm. Possessed like nah, man, it's not my jam. Paranormal activity, like I've seen it, all that stuff, and I know it's not real, but like if I woke up and my husband was just standing over me, like
oh
have
yeah, fuck that.
watched me for like hours, divorce. I'm good. I'm good. Sorry. Holy Spirit, like, activate. Like, I'm good. I'm Gucci. Stuff like that. But in terms of what I could handle, oh, is there anything? Oh, I don't know how to say it. It's La Lorena?
Okay, the crying woman,
Yeah, yeah.
Layona, or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be I don't want to see her, but
Hmm.
I think we could be friends for a second, you know, just for half a
Okay.
second. Freddy, you know, I don't know, I'm in between type of thing. I don't know. I watch a lot of scary movies, man. A lot of scary movies, so it's really hard. Like,
What's your go-to for scary movies? Do you do monsters, or do you do? Because I feel like there's a difference between psychological thrillers
yeah.
and horror. When people say scary movies, I feel like a lot of times they don't necessarily distinguish the difference, because I think that there are, like, that's a very
It's a
overarching.
broad. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a broad brush to paint with. And I personally could sit through, I think, a horror before I sit through a psychological thriller. I'd be more inclined to watch a psychological thriller because I
Mhm.
believe in those stories. I find the story in those a little more easily,
Yeah.
excuse me, than I do in horror, because horror is just like, all right, for example, like a Saw or Final Destination or something came to
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, yeah.
And then also it's like, why do we watch Final Destination on like bus trips? Or why do we watch I don't know. I don't know why that
See.
I felt like the last time I watched that, it was absolutely on a bus trip someplace. Wow.
Oh
But
my god. No,
horror
no.
movies, even though I know those are the easiest for me to process in terms of this is fake, I'm good. But psychological thrillers, I will never forget. My mama and I went to go see Gothica in theaters.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, Gothica with Holly Berry.
Yes. And what's that man name from that show Rock? I cannot remember his name, but
Oh,
I
I have
see
no
his
idea.
face. Uh that shit was terrifying.
Did you mess
And
it messed you up?
girl, when I tell you we left that theater shook, and we was just like, yo, straight to the fucking car. No games, because of course it was nighttime when we left. And
Yeah.
so we like book it. Like, eye on the prize. We're
Yeah.
not dilly
Yeah.
dallying, none of that. Let's get to the car. When I tell you we got to the car, there was a ticket on the car. My mother didn't even, generally my mother's like, what is it? She was just like, grab it, let's go. Grab the ticket, got in the car. She's like, we will look at it later. Baby, let's go. And same type of time. We were so freaking scared. And see, that is something that you can convince me could absolutely happen.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe something like a possession, like you said. I absolutely believe those things can happen. That's why I'm also kind of, and oddly enough, like in nature, I touch everything, right? Like I'm good to touch a tree. I'm good to touch like
physically.
Yes. Like to touch a wall like if I'm going on like a hike or something, like a nature hike. I remember in Guadalupe, I was going because I was just going through those pictures not too long ago, and I was like, oh, it was so beautiful. It was the last like real international trip that I took. And that was January 2019. And I'm looking at some of the pictures and I'm like at not a lighthouse, but it was kind of like an old mill, an old fort. Like it was a lot of kind of old shit going on along this nature walk that we were going on. And so there were a lot of like rubble, debris, like remaining structure pieces and walls and stuff. And so like I'm touching the walls to this. Oh, this was a jail and this was this. And so I will touch a wall, but I feel like when it comes to other personal items, if that makes sense, like, I don't know.
I think
things
so.
that personally belong to someone, I feel like I'd be a little more hesitant to touch versus
like someone that like passed.
Yeah. Like, for example, if there was going to be like the bed of someone that like you're visiting like an old house, and if for whatever reason you could touch like the headboard or something, I don't know if I'm going to touch that. But like the wall of a house, like I think of I will more likely touch an inanimate object versus something that belonged to someone. I will touch a tree before I touch, someone's book. Yeah. That kind of stuff. Like I feel like personal items carry just a little more of that possibly bad energy, or just 100%. Energy that I don't know what to do with. I can't do nothing with it. I don't want to bring anything back home. I don't want any of that. Have you ever had like a scary kind of experience while you were traveling?
While I was traveling, not while I was traveling. No, in my life, yes, like ghost type.
Go for it.
It might sound dumb, but when I was a kid, I have a twin sister, identical. And
really?
Yeah, I did
not know that. Hi,
Courtney. Twin. Yes, her name's Courtney.
Really is it Courtney with a K or a C?
A C.
I have a cousin with a C. I have so many Courtneys in my life.
Really?
C cousin is two cousin Courtneys, and they're both with C's. I have a best friend who's a Courtney with a K. My brother is a best friend, Courtney he's a C. So many Courtneys, but go ahead, girl.
That's so insane. Yeah, she's dope. I'm gonna let her know to listen. But yeah, it was just me and her, and in the hallway of our house, of our mom's place, I think it was like my great grandpa died, and he would like flicker the lights like a lot, all the time. And it wasn't like, oh, the light bulb is, going out. It was like 3 times and then not at all. Or like 4 times and then not at all. And it was so creepy. And my mom, she was just like, stop, like, and then we started saying, stop, like, this is creepy. But we knew it was him because he's the last person that died that we saw. It was so weird, dude. Like, wow. Not a joke. It sounds, but it's true.
No. I don't think it sounds wild at all. I saw a ghost in my parents' house. I don't remember what it was, but I bet you I never came down to make no microwave popcorn at night again.
Oh my God, no!
I came down the stairs, and so the way like the house is set up is kind of like if you sit in the kitchen at the because there's like a little breakfast nook. So if you sit in the breakfast nook, you can see through the entire house. Basically, you can see straight through to the dining room and then to like the living room, and the front door. So you can't necessarily see into all the rooms, but you can see, like, you can't see the totality of all the rooms, but you can see into the rooms, right?
Okay.
So when you come into the kitchen and you enter, it's kind of like you can't see, like, in the kitchen, when you're in the kitchen and like at the microwave, at the sink, at the stove, like in the body of the kitchen, you can't see any of the other rooms. The only way you can see into those rooms is if you go stand in front of the door or sit in front of the table, which is in front of the door. So that's my point in describing that, because in the kitchen, you're fine. You have no clue what's going on in the rest of the house. So I'm making my little popcorn and I go goofy me and sit down at the table. And then for some reason, I'll never, like, I look up and I look directly through into and the whole house is dark. It's just the light on in the kitchen. And I look into like the dining room, living room area, and there's like a woman in white, just like standing in there. And it was like I couldn't see features. I didn't know who this, because my great grandmother died in the house. So I've always like heard stuff in the house. Like if I'm in there by myself and my room is in the attic. If I'm in the attic, I would hear people, like I could hear walking on the stairs, but knowing good and well there's nobody in the house but me. And that never really creeped me out, because it's like it's an old house, so you expect some kind of creaks, and then it's just like, all right, well, somebody's coming up and down the house. Don't fuck with me. And I never felt unsafe in that house. Not even brave. It's just, no, I'm protected there. Like I'm covered there. It's like my great grandmother's not gonna let nothing happen to me. Like I'm good. Like I could try. She's not with it. Like I already know. I've never met her, but I already know. Like she got me. So I've never been like afraid or scared of anything in the house that I would hear. But this was the first time I've ever seen anything. And it was the only time I've ever seen anything. But that scared the absolute utter shit out of me. And so I ran into the kitchen real quick. And then it's just like, what's your move? You know what I mean? Like, now the fuck what? Now what do you do? And I wasn't like, I was about to say, I wasn't like a child. I was probably home from college. Or like, you know, I was between 18 and 21, I'd say.
So you could handle.
Yeah. So it was like, at this point, handle is a strong word, baby. Handle is strong. That's a reach. But it's just like, okay. At this point, you're at the age where people expect you to handle it. Like, it's kind of like, you don't just stand in the kitchen and be like, Mama, yo, like somebody come down here. At this point, it was just like, all right, so am I going to take the popcorn? Or, like, do I even want the popcorn anymore? I don't even remember what I did with the popcorn. I probably just like ran up the stairs, like through, and I think I might have turned the light out. Girl, I don't even remember what happened, but I will never forget seeing that. Like, I don't remember what my response was. I can't even honestly say that I clearly and definitively remember what my response was, but I will never forget seeing it, because
so
I have heard a million things, but never seen anything. And I told my mama, and it was just like, girl, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, all right, well, she ain't do nothing. Like, we're cool now, apparently. You know what I mean? But yeah, shit like that. It's just like, you can't untake that experience from me.
Yeah.
So it's just like, of course I take that shit seriously. Like when I go other places. Have you ever like considered like, I don't want to say like a pilgrimage for it, but like going or visiting places for the occult? Like I know dark tourism is a thing, and that's one of the things, like that's an episode that I'm quietly in the background working on. I have like my ideal way that looks, but then I'm kind of playing around with other ways that I could do a dark tourism episode. I did one with Bruce Leroy. He'd done a trip to Chernobyl. I think.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't know if I could do there. He, like, as far as you can go in terms of visiting the blast site and all of that stuff, he'd done a trip there. He actually, I don't know if it's still up, but he had a pretty interesting YouTube video about his experience there. That was from like years ago though, because I remember I interviewed him probably in like 2018 or 19, I want to say. But say all that to say, I don't know if there are certain places that I could bring myself to visit. What
Yeah,
about you?
yeah. Hmm. I think because I don't know a lot. Um, like, are you talking about like real stuff or like tourism? Like, what a Mardi Gras, Louisiana?
Okay. I think I know where you're going. So, like the ghost tours,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
like, so I would
Is that what you're
absolutely do
talking
a
about?
ghost tour. I would do that. But I mean, like, would you ever travel someplace for, to experience, I guess, if you will, not experience, but to visit the place of like mass casualty or,
Oh, I
um,
feel it.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
for
like the
example,
history that's like traumatic.
yes. So the first place that comes to mind for me that I don't necessarily think gets a dark tourism label is like the World Trade Center
Yeah,
memorial.
yeah.
So I worked
Mm.
down by there, and I
Oh wow.
remember when it was like erected. My
Mhm.
cousin, she's still in the Navy, Lieutenant JG. Proud of my boo. Um, and I remember Fleet Week, the Freedom Tower had just gone up, and they were opening like the first tours to military, well, Navy military, close friends and family, like immediate
Mm.
family. And so shout out to the girl that was like, so you're domestic partners? Yes. Yes, we are. We are in love for so long. Have a great
Let's
trip.
do this.
Appreciate you, sis. Like, all right, no, cousin doesn't count, but like if
Yeah,
you're a
yeah, yeah.
domestic partner. So,
I feel it.
and I don't want to say it was a beautiful memorial. I will say that they did a very beautiful job of respectfully memorializing what occurred.
Mhm.
Um, so it didn't necessarily feel like it was visiting the site of mass chaos and
Yeah,
death. You
yeah,
understand? Whereas
yeah,
something, and also I think, in fairness, because there's still so much going on around it, like life is now existing and
yeah.
happening in such close proximity, whereas opposed to someplace like Chernobyl,
Mhm.
dead, desolate, and that's it. Um, so I think they're like places that are a little more vibrant and have more of the memorial
I feel
feel
it.
is
Yeah.
not exactly what I'm going for, but someplace, for example, like visiting Auschwitz or a concentration camp.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Would you visit something like that, or have you ever visited someplace that has had like a memorial designation
I
before?
have not.
Hmm.
I have thought about Auschwitz, but I don't think I could handle it.
Hmm.
Um, I I don't know if this is like super controversial, but I would do you I don't know if you saw, but this fucking bitch. She
Excuse
took
me.
slave quarters that were like on plantations, which that's what I would want to visit, like plantations and see like the conditions that our people
Hmm.
were living in, had to live in. um that's what I would want to do, but this motherfucking bitch, she took took the quarters, put plumbing, put all the shit in there,
The
and rented it
Airbnb.
as an Airbnb. Do you remember that? Did you
I
hear
do.
that?
I did.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I was like,
Hard line.
ah,
Hard line.
that pissed me off, but
That's a hard
that's
line.
that's what I would want to do, just like kind of uh
Okay.
see
I
what
would
our people had to
recommend
go through.
I would recommend then, especially since you mentioned New Orleans, we did actually that at the Whitney Plantation in right outside of New Orleans. I can't remember exactly what the area was called, but you could look up the Whitney Plantation, and
Mhm.
they do a beautiful job of respecting the history. You can enter into actual slave quarters, and they do a great job of pointing out what is a restoration, what is an existing structure from what previously used to be there. They'll point
Oh,
out
wow.
this is a structure that was originally there, but it has been moved from X location to this location, or this is an
Oh,
original
that's awesome.
structure, and then these improvements were made to it because the plantation itself actually transitioned usage through the years.
Mm,
Like it was a slave
got it.
plantation during that era, but then as time grew, like as time went on, like the actual usage of the property, of the grounds, has been other things since then. Or it was it that they had not indentured workers, but the one where you'll never get out of your debt. I can't think of what it's called, but like you're farming,
Oh,
and it's like the
like you have to work to pay off the debt that's
yeah,
never
but and
ending.
it never goes out because they're lending you your it's a thing. But I would
I know
suggest
exactly what
there
you're talking about.
Whitney Plantation. They did a really great job. Again, like the World Trade Center Memorial, it was not for a profit the way that
Mhm.
Airbnb was done. It wasn't disrespectful, gross, or callous. It was more of a you come in here and you understand the profits that are made from your patronage and from your gift shop purchases to go back into funding the preservation of this property, as well as the compensation of the tour guides, I would assume, and the people that work on the grounds and the property. But
That's
it
so
was
important.
that was absolutely a really it was heavy, but
Yeah.
it was also like as good of an experience as that can be, if you
Right,
know,
right.
like that's a heavy one, but it was well done and received well. I it's hard to say you enjoy, you know what I mean, like saying oh I enjoyed it,
No,
it's a little
I think
weird, but
I've heard of it because I've been trying to plan a trip to New Orleans for maybe 5 years, and it just never executed. Always something happened, and I did. I think I saw that, and I was like, I have to go here for that. Like,
yeah.
not for visiting, oh la la la, but
Hmm.
to learn.
Yeah, they
Because we
make it
don't
very
have a
easy
lot of like
to consume that
places
info.
that, you know what I mean. Like
Yeah,
we don't have a lot of places that are, I don't know how to explain it,
I'll
if
drop
you know what I mean.
the link to that in the description box as well. So I'll include the link to. I mentioned the episode with Ken. I mentioned the episode with Bruce Leroy, and I also had the episode with the Whitney Plantation. I'll put those in the description box for anybody listening if you wanted to check those out. Um, But since we're on monsters, what is your
Oh
love
yeah.
of monster originate? Like why do you love monsters? What is like
Oh
how do you
gosh.
engage with the monsters? What's your
It
jam?
started with zombies, man. It really did.
What was your
I
zombie
know.
movie?
Um, oh my gosh, 28 days later,
Okay.
and then 28 weeks later.
Mhm.
And then
I think
from
we watched
there,
the original one.
yeah.
Was it the Portuguese one or something like that?
Oh, I never seen
Quarantine
that
or
one.
something? Was it Quarantine or so? It's so I could be misremembering the movie. I'd have to ask Jay, but there I think that's the one that's a remake of a European version. And Goofy Us, this is testament to how much I love my man. We watched it in somebody else, like in an Airbnb in North Carolina. And
Nah, nah, nah.
should have known better. But the shit was good. It was good. Like, there was enough dialogue and story,
Yeah.
to draw me away from the fact that there was zombies. But
Proud of
Ooh,
you. Proud of
that
you.
me
Getting
too,
through
girl.
it.
Thank you. I haven't dabbled in that in a while, but yeah, those Scotty. I believe those could happen. Look at COVID.
Yeah, no, seriously. It was so such a gross thing to admit, but I hoped that people turned into zombies. I'm like, it's the apocalypse. Let's do this, man.
That'd be
I've been planning for this,
my
even though
swan
I'm
song.
probably gonna die,
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it started with zombies. And kind of a little bit of like Final Destination, but that's more thriller, psychological. Um, but it started there, and then just started watching crazy stuff, and then Insidious came out,
Ooh.
and I was like, I don't know about that. Now I'm like, it's not that scary. It's not that serious. But back
Excuse me.
then, back
Okay.
then,
Since you grown.
I, I matured. No, back then it was like super scary, and I enjoyed being scared. And then me and Tristan just started watching like all these scary movies together. And I'm in his office right now, and he's got like a ton of different posters, and there's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark that's based off a book. Pet Cemetery,
I remember that
Reanimator, which I was like,
as
so
a
I have a
kid.
little brother, and I watched it when he was like, I don't know, 4 or 5, and I was afraid of him. Isn't that wild? Like, I was afraid of him because I was like, what if he gets possessed? Like, is he really like the Charlie that I remember? So
Yo, the
wild.
kid versions of us have told us some wild shit, man.
The lies, just like you were saying before. Like, I know it's not real, but is it though?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! But yeah. It just kind of snowballed, and now it's my favorite movie type. Like, I don't like, you know, romance or anything like that. Psychological and physical horror. I don't like unnecessary like violence. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like slasher. Like, there's the classic ones, but I don't like unnecessary killing. Like, that's kind of
Give me a
lazy
story.
for the
A little
story.
dialogue or something.
Exactly. My favorite movies are Korean films
Okay.
because they just know what they're doing. Like, oh my gosh, they're so scary. My favorite one is Gonjiam, Haunted Asylum.
Oop.
And basically, yeah, it's exactly what you think. These people, these young people are like, oh, I'm gonna go on YouTube or TikTok and I'm gonna stream, and we're gonna like, figure it out and see if these monsters or spirits are here.
They always are.
And I even watched the Blair Witch Project, like super sidebar, and that was scary. That shit was
Now
kind of
imagine
scary, dude.
when it first came out.
Oh
It
my gosh.
was a fucking time. It was a time. I have a very loose memory of the movie.
Did you watch it?
So I think it took me a while to get to it. I was probably, I don't know why in my mind Blair Witch Project came out in like 99. Let's see. Let's Google when it came out. Blair.
Like the 90s. Definitely.
Late 90s, early 2000s. Maybe 2002. Damn, I'm good with this. Fuck me. 1999.
Okay. See, you know what you're talking about.
Sometimes. What's that Ron Burgundy? Not Ron Burgundy. It's one of them Anchorman quotes. 60% of the time it works all the time. Something like that. So in 99, I was turning 13, 14. So I had no real business like really watching a movie like that. If you ask me. However, I think I remember being like at my dance school and hearing like my cousins and my friends talking about like, that is what I remember. And I don't remember, I remember all of like the buzz. I remember do you think it's real, or it's so cool, or like you're really in,
Oh.
like it feels like you're there. So I remember the buzz around
Yeah.
the movie more than I remember watching the actual movie. Like
Yeah.
I remember watching. My mom was a big Stephen King fan, and
Oh,
like the
okay.
early scary movie. Like I don't do clowns. I don't do
Fair enough.
clowns.
Fair enough.
And it wasn't even it that did it for me. That like punched me in the face, solidified it. Um, but I never fucked with clowns, never
Mm-hmm.
banged, and it was wild because my grandma had like these weird clown dolls hanging on the wall
The
in the bedroom
disrespect.
there,
Oh
and it was
no.
just like, why are these here? So it would always take
Yeah.
me so long to go to sleep because I would always just like be staring at them because it's just
Yeah.
like,
What if they move? Yeah.
hello, 6-year-old me
Mm-hmm.
was pretty fucking convinced.
Dolls. Same thing.
Hated the shits. I hope they're burned someplace. If I ever find them shits in the house,
It's over.
absolutely. Like that's something that I would probably want to gift away just in case that, like when they say like you throw it out and it always comes back kind of thing.
That reminds me of like Annabelle or some shit.
And I've never seen that, but I just know the trope. You understand?
Oh my
Like I
gosh.
may
Yeah.
not have watched all of the movies, but I'm familiar.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
aware. So if I found them shits got to be given away. They have to be gifted so
Yeah.
that they don't find their way back. But Pet Cemetery, I remember watching that as a kid and being like, what? The Birds was scary as fuck to me as a kid. It was just,
Oh,
what?
I've
Oh
never
my God,
seen
the
that.
Birds. So good. So
Yeah.
good. A lot of the classics are really, I went through a really fun Hitchcock phase in college. But that ended up being something that we had to revisit for one of my classes. But Birds, I
Oh.
remember being one of the first scary movies I watched as a kid. And I think it was Serpent in the Mist or Serpent in the Rainbow.
Mm.
It did such, let me look it up. Serpent
Never heard of that.
in the Rainbow. So it's a movie about, Serpent and the Rainbow. It is a 1988 American horror film by Wes Craven and starring Bill Pullman. And it's loosely based on a nonfiction book, the same name, blah, 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 recounted its experiences in Haiti, investigating the story of an allegedly poisoned, buried alive, and revived with a herbal brew, which zombies, voodoo
Oh my
zombies,
god.
Haiti. So when I tell you, little impressionable me who didn't know any better was so terrified of like voodoo,
Mm-hmm.
and you couldn't tell me that there wasn't going to be like a voodoo doll or something wasn't going to be the end all be all. Like, were you scared of quicksand? I don't know if generationally that's a little bit
Yeah.
different. I spent
Yeah.
so much
No.
time preoccupied about quicksand and the Bermuda Triangle. I feel like that was mentioned
Oh my
like on a
god.
past
But
episode, but
yes.
it's like the things
Yes.
that scared us as kids. I remember thinking like that some way I would have to like big me, like little me was thinking that
Yeah. Yeah.
adult
Yeah.
me eventually might have to come into contact with the Bermuda Triangle and was just like so worried.
Stop.
Fucking ridiculous, insane. But like Serpent in the Rainbow, that was one of my first zombie movies, and I was just like, whoop, okay, voodoo, Haiti, never going to Haiti. Um, that really did a number on me, and the zombie thing was just like, oh, yep, nope, nope. The Michael Jackson
Understandable.
Thriller, that shit fucked with me for a while.
Really?
Oh my god, I used to like hide behind the pillow, and I would still watch it though
Oh
because it was
no.
MJ. It was so fucking
Yeah.
good. But for like Thriller, I would like hide behind the pillow and peek around and watch it. And then there were like the fun parts of the video on the roller coaster and shit like that. And when
Yeah.
Bubbles
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
in there, it was like you watch the fun shit. But then like the scary shit, I used to be terrified. I was such a scary kid.
That's something that I hear a lot though. Like that's not uncommon. Like when it first came out, people were like super scared about it. So I feel that.
I think that that's another thing that ends up being something that you don't necessarily put too much thought into until you either know better or till you're forced to confront why you think a way about something, right? Like how
Mm-hmm.
the experiences of your youth end up kind of quietly influencing the way or the places that you visit and kind of interact with, right? So it's like for
Yeah.
the longest time, I was terrified of voodoo until I actually like read a link, opened a book, asked questions, and I had the most incredible experience in Cuba with the Afro
Nice.
Roots tour. And they did a lot of Afro Cuban religion um, explanations and breakdowns, and we visited like a museum that had a lot of historical artifacts, and they did a nice explanation. It was such an incredible experience. And so for me, it was just like, that's another way that travel is so much more than vacation. It's just like, it gives you the opportunity to kind of like dispel a lot of the myths that you had in mind, or to
Yeah.
kind of like dismiss like the little things that you may have thought about. Like, for example, I work near Chinatown. And so a lot of my interactions with Chinese people can be judged, if you will, in the harshness of everybody trying to get someplace. It's fucking
Mhm.
Manhattan. Everybody's in the way. You're surrounded by tourists, and then there's a bunch of Chinese people, signs in Chinese everywhere. And it's like, I know where
Mhm.
I'm going at this point, but it's like, depending on which block and pocket you're in, when you don't know where you're going, it's like the way a lot of Chinese people would just not respect personal space, zoom by,
Mhm.
and like you go into a store, they don't pay you no fucking mind. It's like, you're right fucking here. No, hello,
Yeah.
goodbye. Like, the idea of American customer service just doesn't really exist like that. So I, for the longest time, had like no desire to go to China. It was just like, all right, well, this is how the people from there are treating me here. And
Mhm.
I have not really, I like, this the shout out to Norm. I hate saying it this way, it's gonna sound wild, but it's like, I have a lot of associates, and as much as I give characters in like movies shit about not having black friends, like, I look at my regular life and I'm like, bro, all my friends are black, so I get your friends looking like you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Norm is not like just an associate. Like, Norm is my friend, and Norm is Chinese. So it's like, yes, I do have a Chinese friend, but he's the only person that I can say of Chinese descent that I have
Yeah.
any actual. Let me ask you this question. Like, let
Interaction.
me not be out here looking stupid, or, all right,
No.
well, the
What?
lady at the store said or did this. Like, I don't know who else to ask but you, Norm. You know what I mean? So Norm would give me like, don't take this personal, or yes, this is why this, or no, and this means that, and blah blah blah. But when I finally got to China, and it was just a long layover,
Mhm.
I had such an incredible experience. Not because the people were overly nice. They did a lot of staring. It was pretty weird and uncomfortable. However, the interactions that I did have with people was just another reminder that you can't let the little pockets of life that be the only pocket you put your hands in. Like, you put on
Exactly.
another pair of
Yeah.
pants, go
Yeah.
someplace else. Try the back pocket, the little pocket in the front that you're like, what's this
Yeah.
for? Put your finger in there, see what's going
Exactly.
on, give it a little rummage. You know what I mean? So it's like, go
Yeah. Yeah.
someplace, experience something, and don't let your dumb head, like your dumb experiences or your very finite and limited experiences, kind of, color the way that you consistently go forward, especially when you get to a point in like adulthood and maturity where you kind of should say that you know better. You know what I mean? It's one
Yeah.
thing to say, oh, I've never had this experience, or I've never had the opportunity to step outside of X type of experience. But when the opportunity does come, like, try to fully experience the opportunity, as opposed to going through said opportunity with the blinders of the lens you already had. That's been my personal experience.
Yeah. I completely,
Excuse.
uh, completely agree with that. Like, everything is about perspective. So you start off, if you have a bad experience consistently with a different culture or something, of course, you're like, let me be a little weary. Like,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, all people are like that, but I'm all about make your own, what is it? Make your own opinion,
Mm-hmm.
outside of just that. Because some people are just dicks, like
Yeah.
that, in that area, but it's not the same everywhere. Like, for example, I'm in the process of learning Russian,
Ooh,
just because when I
shits and
was a
gigs.
kid, I had like a bunch of Russian and Ukrainian friends, and
Okay.
I went to their houses, and I was like, oh my gosh, like they're so nice, they're so beautiful. I want to learn the language. But then when I grew up, they same thing, didn't respect personal space,
Hmm.
were just super like not super but like aggressive,
Yeah.
and
Sometime.
everything
Yeah.
like that. And admittedly my family was like, they're all like that, la la la, and I was like, no, no, you have to look outside of your tiny like experience and give it a try. Like,
Hmm.
it's scary, it's really really scary as a black person, a black woman, going and traveling by yourself. There's so many articles and so many like different, I don't know. I don't know. Obviously be wary, but get outside and make your own experience. Does that make sense?
It does.
I feel like I'm like rambling over
No, it
here.
makes sense. It does. Have you had any of those experiences that kind of made something make sense for you in your travels?
Like,
Clarifying moments in your travels, if you will.
in terms of like, did I experience prejudice
No, like
or anything?
clarifying, not necessarily. Well, not necessarily. It could
Oh,
be prejudice, but like a clarifying moment, or like a moment where it was just kind of like, okay, well, I thought X, but now I'm experiencing P, and this is enough to have me rethink or move my hard line as to a previous thought pattern.
gotcha. Yes. The biggest and only place I've been was Italy. So that's where I pull a lot of my experiences from.
Hmm.
But I was terrified to go. I'm like, what if, you know, these people are actually prejudiced? What if the people around me, like, it's not safe, stuff like that? Maybe I shouldn't go to this shop. Maybe I shouldn't, like, walk alone, all that stuff. Um, but when I went, I felt so welcome
Mm.
and, if you will, normal. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
nobody stopped, nobody was like, oh my god, you're black,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It was just a very, I felt welcome, but like I lived there, if that makes sense.
Perfect sense.
um I did have a little bit of prejudice experience, but it was so funny because I I was walking, and I stopped with my kid, and I had my bike in the way, and this older woman was like trying to get past, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And she said something in Italian, and my kid's like, she said something about you being black. I'm like, "Oh, couldn't I didn't even know." Like,
Right.
I wasn't even
Thanks, kid.
clocked in on that. No, exactly. Like, huh, that's unfortunate.
Don't say what
But
she said. It's horrible.
no, exactly. Let's be kind, treat everybody with respect. But yeah, yeah. I was really scared. Really, really scared of being unsafe.
Mm. And that's reasonable because that's part of what keeps us alive, right? A lot of those reasonable concerns that have you second guessing things, looking around. And honestly, that's one of the things that I always suggest people bring with them in like their travel toolkit, if you will,
Yeah,
is their good sense and their intuition. Like if something doesn't feel right or if you're uncertain about something, like don't completely ignore it. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
it's
I
one
remember you
thing
saying that.
to question why you feel a certain way.
Mhm.
And I think that one of the ways to best prepare yourself for travel is to give yourself those opportunities to do that, to trust your intuition at home, where you're on more safe ground, where you feel like you have
Mm.
more opportunity to risk or to more opportunity to lose, where you feel safer losing, where you feel safer being wrong or just making the wrong decision, right? Like there's a certain level of security you have in your hometown or in the place that you currently live, where your support systems
Yeah.
are, right? So giving yourself the opportunity or acknowledging when you are tuning into your intuition or kind of being present with your decision making in
Hmm.
very, or not necessarily very, but just in instances where you're making decisions or exercising choice, if you pay attention to it and in my experience, this may not be everyone's experience, but for me, I feel that paying attention to how you make your decisions, why you make your decisions, and the type of decisions that you make in safe spaces allows you to better trust the decisions that you make in spaces where you may not feel as safe, right?
Mm,
So it's
that's
kind of
interesting.
like
Yeah.
I tend to be slow with decisions for the most part. I intentional, if you will, and not
Like, take your
indecisive.
time.
Yeah, I'm really legit just indecisive. But if I want to fluff it up and make myself feel better about it, I'll say that I'm just intentional with my decisions. I'm very
Mhm.
risk averse. Like I am very aware of what X decision is going to cost me in all the different ways that I
Got it.
could think of it having any value to me. That being the case, I try not to, like, when I think about it, I try not to beat myself up for past mistakes or past decisions and just focus on, well, what's the easy choice right now? Or what's
Hmm.
something
Hmm.
that I can, you know, choose first or choose easiest to make something a little less difficult down the road. And I find that when I am aware of how that process works, when it's not as difficult, that I'm able to kind of better default with my decisions when they are difficult. And sometimes, like the difficult decisions, like you don't necessarily have the time to
Yeah.
choose. Like it's kind of like certain things, like, do I feel safe in this space? Like if you walk into
Hmm.
a bar and you read the room and it's just like, oh, there are three people here. None of them look like me. It is dark outside.
Yeah.
And like certain cues, you know how to read. And then also, you know your tolerance for certain things. You know, like there's certain decisions that you have to make without a thought process, but that just tend to just be, what does it feel like? And if, like, I don't know best how to explain that without saying, like, the way I process stuff in my brain is not necessarily in words, if that makes sense, but it's just like I just I just know what it is in my head without having, like, for example, if you think of the transcript of a thing, there are sections and lines and prose and there is dialogue to it. The
Yeah.
entire thing exists. Like it's like the entirety of a thought is in the book without it being the individual line. Like I'm not thinking through each piece individually. It's
Yeah.
just like when I'm thinking about like what I'm doing when I come home, it's just like the totality of it all, and then making it smaller is where it gets stressful for me. It's like the
Interesting.
does that make sense? So it's like
I think so.
when I am making certain decisions, it's not necessarily telling a story, it's reading a feeling. So it's just like it all exists in one kind of like whiff of air. It's kind of like you're smelling something. And
Hmm.
in that smell, you know that it's just like, okay, it's chicken. But then it's like, can you smell the garlic? Can you smell the fresh onion? Can you smell that there may be like cilantro or something
The
else that's added
specifics
to it? So it's
of.
just like, exactly.
Got
So
it.
it's like
Got it.
in a moment, like a thought or a decision sometimes isn't about all of the answers. It's not about the individual ingredients. It's like, what's cooking? Do you eat meat? It's that
Yeah.
simple. Do you want
Yeah.
this? Do you not? And if you can kind of make the decision make a little bit less sense in the most comfortable way. And I
Hmm.
feel like that's only going to hit if it hits. But it's like, if that's like, I have You know how you have like inside jokes? Well, one of the inside jokes with me and Jay is if you don't think about it, it makes sense. I don't know where the fuck I came up with that. I don't know what the context I don't know what I was trying to explain, but it was but it makes perfect sense to me. There are certain things that if you don't think about, they just make sense. The less thought you give to it, okay, that makes sense. But then when you start thinking through, it's just like when you break it down into all of its individual details, it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. And some decisions don't make sense
Can you
if you
give an
don't think about.
example of
Yes.
like, have you ever like going back a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
experienced going out in your, your neighborhood or your safe place, like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
and had to make those decisions outside of your like comfort zone, if I'm making sense?
Yes. So, like a decision that, let me think. So, I think I can do a better example of like the inverse, right? So, not necessarily a decision that I have that I'll make like in a more regimented and kind of broken down into its parts,
Mhm.
but if you don't think about it, it makes sense, right? So, Qatar. If I think about what I did, it was an absolute terrible idea. But in the moment, it made perfect sense and it was the best decision for me. But it
Mm.
was one of those things where it's just like I kind of just had to be very present in the moment and trust in individual decisions that were going to lead to a larger. And it's just like going with the flow is, in my little world, I guess, a more readily accessible analogy of if you don't think about it, it makes sense. Just go with the flow. Just
Yeah, I
go,
think
like,
I know what you mean. Like,
dance without
don't
worrying about the,
overthink about.
yes. Dance
Mhm.
without worrying about the choreography. Just move. When somebody's like, well, I don't know how to dance, I don't know what to do. Don't think about it. Just do it. Just move your body. Start with your
Ah,
shoulders. Start
that
with your
makes sense.
hips. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, don't think about it. Just be in it. And I feel like if you
Mhm.
spend a little bit more time just in it and going with, okay, well, where's my body taking me? Where's my decision process taking me? What am I feeling in this? I guess more of the woo woo. How do you fucking
Yeah.
feel? Tap
Yeah.
into what the energies around you were saying. Is the energy from the bus driver giving you absolutely not getting on this bus right now? Something about you is just, sometimes don't think about why he's weird. Sometimes don't think about what it is about this person. It could
Mhm.
be absolutely nothing personal to that man. It could absolutely be like an ancestor or somebody just coming through in that moment and saying,
Yeah.
hey, I know that maybe his eyebrows will rustle something up in you from like not even like on
Yeah.
some deep repressed memory shit, but just like sometimes the universe works in your favor in making
Mhm.
and having things happen. And it's not necessarily about the, well, let me see, he's got his uniform on, there are other
Yeah.
people on
Yeah.
the bus. When you start breaking it down and like analyzing your choice not to take that bus, no, it doesn't
Mhm.
make sense because you're like, no, I can't point out any reason why. Like, I didn't really
Exactly.
want to be on that bus. But in that
Yeah.
moment, you had a strong urge to just be like, "Oop, nope, maybe not." And
And
you
just take
followed
the
it.
note.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it's like not thinking about it while you just have to be present. And I think to answer the question where you were asking for like an example in regular life, right?
Mm.
Like smaller
Mhm.
decisions, like the decision to go to an event or not go to an event. You can sit
Okay.
and think of like, oh my God, if I go, I don't know that I don't know how social I want to be. Like, am I going to be able to go right after work? So, all right, so am I going to drive there or am I going to take an Uber? So you
Right.
have
Yeah.
all of these pieces to the decision. And it's kind of like, all right, well, what is the worst that can happen? What is this event?
Mhm.
Is this
Yeah.
something that is going to keep me out of my house until 1 a.m.? Do I have any other responsibilities? So it's like in that moment, you can kind of say, well, what the fuck matters to me? Am I worried about
Yeah.
the commute or am I worried about my social battery? Okay. I'm more worried about the commute. My social battery, I know I could plug, unplug, and kind of figure. So it's just like in the moments where, okay, this is a safe decision. It's not the end of the world. It's not an end all be all situation. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily something that is going to make or break a friendship. It's not a familial obligation. It's something as simple as my homegirl invited me to some shit. It's not really my bag, but I actually do have time to kill that day, or I have
Yeah.
been committed to trying new things. Well, you know what? I haven't seen her in a really long time and I would like to support her in this. Like, try and figure out in the regular minutia of life, the types of things that matter to you, the types of
Hmm.
things that are very front and present in mind when you have to make a decision. Like certain information I know I need up front. Primary, who all gonna be there? I don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to be around everybody. And it's not because I'm better than anybody. It's just that I don't necessarily want to engage in certain dialogue or be
Yeah.
in certain energy and in certain spaces and stuff like
Exactly.
that. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean by in the smaller instances, making those decisions. And then something as simple as, all right, well, let me go and see how I like it. If I don't like it, I
Yeah.
could turn around and come the fuck back home. Because
You
guess
could
what?
always leave.
I live an hour
Exactly.
away. Or guess what? I'm going with my friend. And so I'll at least, so it's like in those situations and like those moments where the cost is low, you're home.
Hmm.
It's not like you paid wild money to go to another country to then decide, well, you know what? I don't really like the bar where this artist is performing,
Yeah.
or, well, what neighborhood is this going to be in? While those things matter, there's a certain degree of distinguishing difference. I mean, I think at this point it's kind of clear that I don't mean like do unsafe shit, but
Yeah. I
in
know
those
exactly what you
moments
mean.
when you're uncertain about, oh, am I going to like it here, or where that your fear may possibly be a little irrational or
Yeah.
possibly something that's going to hold you back from something bigger and better. Lean back on the everyday experiences that you have. Know that you've done hard things. Know that you've made hard decisions. And it's just
Hmm.
like, all right, well, I fucking decide what to eat for dinner every fucking night. Why can't I do that in Prague?
Yeah. I could totally do that.
I take the train here. Why the fuck can't I do that in Milan?
See,
People
look at
like,
you speaking into my life. Okay. Okay. My
the same shit
goodness.
you do here is the same shit that you can do abroad. The same energy you run the streets with on your block, on your work job, your grandma block, your great granddaddy block, your cousin's block, like that same energy, bring it with you to your travels abroad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Britt, any final thoughts for the people? Thank you so much for being here with me. It's a
No.
pleasure to
Thank
see your
you
face
for
again.
chilling with me. Ah, shucks. Um, just like you said, just now, you can do hard things, and I think I'm a hypocrite, but like the biggest thing takeaway I would say for people is do it scared. Do it
Hmm.
fucking scared, man. Like
Not a hypocrite. You did it because you were
just
scared shitless of Italy and you
yeah.
went. So,
Yeah.
not a
I wish
hypocrite.
I had more like stories and experiences that I could tell you outside of just, Italy, but yeah, do it scared, man. You never know what's going to happen on the other side. You'll
And I
find
think,
yourself on the other
yeah,
side, different stuff about yourself.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's a version of you under every rock. And I think you hit on a
Ooh.
good nail when you said, I don't think you meant the point, but it was kind of like the point when you were saying, I wish I had more experiences. And it's that there is value in the experiences that you have had,
Mhm.
even though they may not be the end all be all of what you see for yourself. Like, we all have more lives to live, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you want more is room for there to be more. And I am so glad you brought that up because I don't know that I often have the opportunity to be reaffirming or reassuring to people who may not have 1,000, cities visited, 75
Yeah.
country stamps, passport. I've been through 6 passports or, passport. your travel experiences are just as valid. Like, travel isn't just luxury. Travel isn't just staying at resorts. Travel isn't just, flying. Travel gets
Yeah.
to be your version of what that is going to be like. And that's what I'm hoping that I get to share with you guys on the podcast, that it's more than just vacation. It doesn't have to be grandiose and extensive. It doesn't have to be well regimented and planned out. It can be whatever pocket of travel you find is going to work best for you. And just because even if you haven't necessarily left your neighborhood, that doesn't mean that you don't have any input on the travel conversation, right? Because I think one thing that
Mm.
people forget is that we all traveled where somebody else lives. And regardless of whether or not you've been
Yeah.
anywhere, you live somewhere. So it's like your voice can matter. It's just maybe change the conversation. So
Mm.
I'm really
I love
hoping
that.
that we can continue to have like these little, and this is what I love about just, there's so much value in everybody. Like, everybody feels like you need, like, you know, I've written 7 books and I host this,
Yeah.
and, like, these really incredible, and there's nothing wrong with having really incredible, like, big ticket or high name guests and stuff. But like, there's so much value
Mhm.
in everybody. Like, I fuck with all of y'all that fuck with me. Like, if you are interested in being a guest, there are limited spaces left for this illustrious roster of traveling shit guests that are on the podcast with me. But I fuck with y'all all. I really do. And I'm so glad I decided on this for the 5-year anniversary. Thank you for being a guest in this really special month of a very special year for me. And if you're interested in being a guest for the remainder of the month, join the newsletter. There'll be a link in the description box. Join the newsletter and just reply to your welcome email, and that'll be the way that you let me know. And I'll send you the link to do the scheduling and all that jazz. Britt, where can the people find you if you want the people to find you?
Yeah, yeah. I can say it's well worth it being on the podcast.
Woot
Just
woot.
saying.
Thank
Do
you.
it. Yeah, people can find me, I guess, Instagram, this humanoid, uh, all lowercase. I am gonna put out an Etsy
There it
coming up
goes.
here. It's all about reading, like merch, reading merch. Like there's a shirt that says Scholastics raised us.
Yes.
Um, so
I
yeah,
like
stuff
that.
like that, but also horror. So if you're interested in any of that, um, just stick around on my Instagram, and yeah, you will see it.
I will definitely have a link to your Instagram in the description box. And
Yes.
thanks for rocking with us, y'all. See you next week. Bye.
Boy.